Hello and welcome to my school channel. My name is Angela, and in this video we're going to be tackling the government JAMB past question for the year 2000. Please stay with us, don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Welcome back to my school channel. Like I said earlier, we're going to be tackling the government JAMB past question for the year 2000. So we're going to begin with questions 1 to 25. So let's begin with question 1. The civil service card responsible for the general supervision and control of ministries is the A, administrative, B, professional, C, executive, and D, clerical. So the answer to this question is option A, administrative. So the administrative card of the civil service is at the top of the hierarchy. It is responsible for the general supervision and control of the civil servants within the ministry. Then we have the professional card below the administrative card. They are a group of professionals who are responsible for providing their expertise, their knowledge on a particular subject area. So we have doctors, lawyers, engineers that belong to this professional card. Then we have the executive card, which is the middle management level, right? They are responsible for administrating the affairs of those lower level civil servants. They will have the clerical staff, who have messengers, clerks, typists, and so on. So they belong to the clerical class and they're responsible for day-to-day operations within the civil service. So the answer to this question is option A, administrative, because it is responsible for the general supervision and control of civil servants within the ministry. Question 2. A disadvantage of the one-party system is that it A, makes accountability difficult, B, negates freedom of association, C, emphasizes political differences, and D, delays decision-making. So the answer to this question is option B, it negates freedom of association. So a one-party system is a system where only one political party runs the political activities within a country. So when there is just one political party, it negates freedom of association because other political parties are not allowed to be formed within that country. So this is a disadvantage because people are not allowed to associate with one another politically within that society. It doesn't make accountability difficult, but because in a one-party system, you know who to lay the blame on if things are not working in that country, on that political party that is running the political affairs in the states. It doesn't emphasize political difference because everybody works under the same political ideology, the ideology of that particular political party that is running the political activities within that country. It doesn't delay decision-making because decision-making is made by that party. And so it is very easy to make a decision because they can all agree on a particular decision. This is different from a two-party state or a multi-party state where they have to be a coalition. They have to agree on a particular thing before any decision can be made within that country. So the answer to this question is option B. It negates freedom of association. Question 3. Citizenship refers to the A, indigenous member of a state, B, social status of a person in a state, C, highest position in a state, and D, legal status of a member of a state. So the answer to this question is option D. The legal status of a member of a state is what is referred to as citizenship. So in order for you to become a citizen of a country, you have to adhere to certain stipulations within the constitution of that country. So the fact that it is stipulated within the constitution makes it legal, right? So in order for you to be a citizen, you have to have a legal status as it is stipulated within the constitution. So our answer to this question is option D. Question 4. The rule of law is a cardinal principle associated with A, democratic systems, B, federal systems, C, communist systems, and D, feudal systems. So the answer to this question is option A, democratic systems. We all know that democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So it is the people that is responsible for selecting the leaders. So in this case, everybody has to be equal before the law. So the rule of law is an essential principle in a democratic system because if the representatives of the people are above the law, it's not a democratic society anymore, right? Because they choose to abuse their power in order to suit them and not to suit the people. Remember, democracy is about the people. It's ensuring that the interests of the people are being represented in the political affairs of the state. So the rule of law is a cardinal principle in a democratic system. So this makes option A the answer to this question. Question 5. The main function of public opinion is to A, change the policy of government, B, provide direction for public policy, C, support the policy of government, and D, indoctrinate the people. So the answer to this question is option B, to provide direction for public policy. So public opinion is the opinion of the majority of people about the political, economic, and social affairs within the state. So public opinion is designed to provide direction for public policy. The government has to listen to the people, to listen to what they want, what their interests are, what their values are, in order to align their values, their interests with the policy that they make. So they provide direction. They do not change the policy of the government. Public opinion does not necessarily change the public policy, but it guides the public policy. It directs the government on what policies to make. It doesn't support the policy of government all the time. Sometimes the policy made by the government may not align with the interests of the people. It doesn't indoctrinate the people. To indoctrinate someone means to bring them to believe your ideology, your beliefs, your values, whatever guides you. So it's kind of like making sure that they believe what you believe. So public opinion doesn't indoctrinate the people. People are free to believe what they want to believe, right? And then they actually aggregate the belief of majority of people to form what is called public opinion. So the answer to this question is option B. They provide direction for public policy. Question 6. A typical form of delegated legislation is A, Acts of Parliament, B, Decree, C, Bylaw, and D, Gazette. So the answer to this question is option C, Bylaw. Bylaws are a type of delegated or secondary legislation. So the legislature in a particular country can delegate the process of lawmaking, the act of lawmaking, to a particular government organization or agency in order to allow them to create laws that actually suit their jurisdiction. Okay, so they can delegate lawmaking responsibilities to public corporations, to the local governments, and to any other government agencies, to the executive essentially. So the reason for this is to ensure that they make laws that are tailored to their specific needs. Okay, the local government need laws that are tailored to the local government that they are governing. So it's important to have bylaws in that case. So that's what delegated legislation is all about. So you can know more about delegated legislation in our topic-by-topic video lesson titled Processes of Legislation. So if you want to know more about delegated legislation, you can go down to the link in the description below. It takes you to the Myschool website where you can subscribe for our government topic-by-topic video lesson. Okay, so Act of Parliament is actually primary legislation. This is actually the laws that are made by the legislature itself. Decree are laws made by military governments. Then Gazette is not a type of law. So our answer to this question is option C, bylaws. Question 7. If a referendum is a device to ensure that A, elections are free and fair, B, legislators vote to resolve contentious issues, C, by-elections are held to fill vacant positions, and D, decisions are effected with the consent of citizens. So the answer to this question is option D. Decisions are effected with the consent of citizens. A referendum is a yes or no vote on a particular issue. So whatever the citizens vote on is what the government has to make public policy on. So a referendum helps to ensure that decisions are effected with the consent of citizens. They want to know whether the citizens align with a particular policy or law or not. So if they do align with that policy, it can be effected. It can actually be a law or a policy within that society. So our answer to this question is option D. Question 8. One main weakness of a unitary system of government is that A, it facilitates the domination of minority groups, B, the constitution can be amended easily, C, it is run as a single entity, and D, carpet crossing and opposition are made difficult. So the answer to this question is option A, it facilitates the domination of minority groups. So in a unitary system, we only have one central authority. The authority at the center is the only authority we have in that nation. So power is not divided between the federal, states, and local level. Power is concentrated in the hands of a single authority. And in that case, it can lead to the domination of minority groups. So the person in position of power might belong to a particular minority group within that society, and it doesn't work in that case. So this is why unitary systems do not work in a society where there are multiple ethnic groups, where there is division and polarization within that society. Because in that case, it's only one group who has power over the entire society. It can't work in that case. So a unitary system may not work in that particular society. So this is why one of the main weaknesses of a unitary system is that it can lead to the domination of a minority group. The answer to this question is option A. Question 9. Pressure groups harmonize different individual concerns through interest A, mobilization, B, aggregation, C, manipulation, and D, articulation. So the answer to this question is option B, aggregation. Pressure groups are designed to bring together people with similar interests in order to bring their case forward to the government, in order to influence government policies. Okay, so they are designed to harmonize the concerns of individuals within a particular society. They come together, especially when they have similar interests. They come together to discuss their concerns, their needs, so that they can come with one voice in order to relay their issues to the government, in order for them to make policies that favor them. So the answer to this question is option B, aggregation. Do you know you can take practice questions with our JAMB CBT past question? All you need to do is to go down to the link in the description below. This takes you to the Myschool website. There you can download the Myschool mobile app for your Android devices and the Myschool software for your laptops and computers. Please go ahead and start practicing. Now on to question 10. The act of removing an elected official by the electorate is referred to as A, impeachment, B, consensus, C, plebiscite, and D, recall. So the answer to this question is option D, recall. Recall is the process by which the electorate removes an elected official, someone that has already been elected into a public office, from office. So this is done when they find that this particular person is no longer performing his duty as he should, or is making policies that do not favor the citizens. In Nigeria, for example, the process of recall is only restricted to members of the Senate or House of Representatives. You can recall your senator or your representative in the House from office, especially if he is not representing the citizens within that particular constituency that he represents. So the process of impeachment is done by the legislators and not by the citizens of the country. You cannot impeach a leader from office. It's only the legislature that can choose to impeach a leader. And the only reason that they can impeach a leader is if he is found to be guilty of gross misconduct in office. So the answer to this question is option D, recall. I believe you're enjoying this content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly, tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos. Question 11. One of the major sources of a constitution is A, judicial precedents, B, political debate, C, opinion poll, and D, executive order. So the answer to this question is option A, judicial precedents. Judicial precedents or case laws are decisions made by the courts in similar cases. So over time, you begin to see that similar decisions are made on similar cases. So these decisions help to guide the constitution. When they want to make a new constitution for a country, sometimes they gather some of these judicial precedents to help to guide the making of new laws within that country. So the answer to this question is option A, judicial precedents. Question 12. A characteristic of public opinion is that it is A, positive, B, static, C, dynamic, and D, negative. So the answer to this question is option C, dynamic. Public opinion changes over time. It doesn't remain in the same place. So sometimes people change their opinion about certain policies, certain laws, certain happenings within that particular society. It is not positive all the time. Public opinion can be positive sometimes, it can be negative sometimes. Public opinion is not static, it changes over time. So the answer to this question is option C, dynamic. Question 13. Coalition government arises when A, one of the parties has a majority in parliament, B, no party has a majority in parliament, C, two or more parties cooperate to pass a bill in parliament, and D, the ruling party is defeated in parliament. So the answer to this question is option B, no party has a majority in parliament. So this often happens when we have a multi-party system. And so when elections are conducted, sometimes we don't have a majority, a political party that has a majority of seats in the parliament. So in this case, you have to cooperate with another political party in order for you to form a majority within the parliament. If there is no majority, there will be a lot of problems, especially when it comes to passing bills within the parliament. So it's important for parliament to have a majority so that they can be able to pass bills on time. Decision can be made faster. So you can see a lot more about coalition government in our government topic by topic video lesson under the topic political parties and party system and franchise election and the electoral system. So if you want to know more about this, you can go down to the link in the description below. This takes you to the Myschool website where you can subscribe to our government topic by topic video lesson. So, from our explanation, we can see that coalition government is formed when there is no party that has a majority in the parliament. So, the answer to this question is option B. Question 14. One of the central tenets of the Fascist doctrine is that the leader is A, supreme relative to the constitution, B, subordinate to the norms of the society, C, subordinate to the laws of the state, and D, weak relative to the constitution. So the answer to this question is option A, supreme, relative to the Constitution. So in a fascist society, the leader is considered supreme. They usually refer to him as the supreme leader of Europe. This particular ideology was developed in Italy under Benito Mussolini and also in Germany under Adolf Hitler. So these people are referred to as fascists because they believe that they are supreme relative to the constitution of the country. So whatever they say, their word is usually law. So there is usually no respect for the rule of law or the tenets of the constitution. So our answer to this question is option A, supreme relative to the constitution. Question 15. Which of the following electoral bodies in Nigeria conducted elections from 1979 to 1983? A. National Electoral Commission, B. Independent Electoral Commission, C. Federal Electoral Commission, and D. National Electoral Commission of Nigeria. So the answer to this question is option C, Federal Electoral Commission, or FEDECO. So FEDECO was an electoral commission that was developed under General Olusegun Obasanjo for the 1979 general election when they wanted to convert from military to civilian rule. So in 1979, a general election was conducted and Shehu Shagari won the election. He became the first executive president in Nigeria and also the leader during the Second Republic. In 1983, they also conducted the election. So again, the National Party of Nigeria won, the party that Shehu Shagari was under. They also won the election, but they were not allowed to stay in office because, again, there was a transition to military rule under Major General Muhammadu Buhari. So FEDECO is the answer to this question. They were the one who conducted the election in 1979 and also in 1983. Question 16. Constitutionalism refers to the A, process of operating a constitution, B, process of drafting a constitution, C, adherence to a constitution, and D, amendment of an existing constitution. So the answer to this question is option C, adherence to a constitution. So constitutionalism is the spirit of adhering to the constitution. They believe that it is important to adhere to the dictates of the constitution in order to have a democratic society, a society that works for the people. So the answer to this question is option C, adherence to a constitution. Question 17. Under the presidential system of government, the legislature and the executive are A, elected separately to a fixed term, B, elected separately to an unfixed term, C, appointed by the judiciary to a fixed term, and D, appointed at the same time to an unfixed term. So the answer to this question is option A, elected separately to a fixed term. So the presidential system of government, we have the legislature and the executive elected separately. This is unlike the parliamentary system of government, where the executive is actually formed from the legislature. It is different because in the parliamentary system, they are elected together. Okay, you elect the legislatures in the country, then from the legislature you get the executive. But in the presidential system of government, the president of the country, the executive, is elected separately from members of the House of Assembly. So also, in the presidential system of government, they are also elected for a fixed term in the sense that they are elected for a certain number of years. After those years run out, then another election takes place in order for you to elect a new set of people. So the answer to this question is option A, elected separately to a fixed term. So you can see a lot more of this in our government topic by topic video lesson under the topic the workings of government, where we discuss the difference between the presidential and the parliamentary system of government. So for this question, the answer is option A, elected separately to a fixed term. Question 18. The Supreme Court, through its interpretation of the Constitution, is A, protector of the state, B, guardian of freedom, C, preserver of the status quo, and D, participator in the politics of the state. So the answer to this question is option B, guardian of freedom. So we understand that the Supreme Court is the last hope of man. So when rights, the privileges of citizens are abused, and they go to the courts, they go there to seek redress from the court of law. And if all the lower courts do not give them the justice they deserve, they eventually get their case to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court is the guardian of the freedom of the common citizens to prevent their freedom, their rights, their privileges from being abused by those in power. It is not the protector of the states, it's actually the protector of the citizens within that country to prevent the state from abusing the rights and the privileges of the citizens. It is not the preserver of the status quo. It doesn't care about the status quo, it cares about the citizens of the country. It is not a participator in the politics of the states. The judiciary is actually independent of the legislature and the executive. And so, it doesn't participate in the politics of the state. It is independent of the states and protects the citizens of the country. So the answer to this question is option B, guardian of freedom. Question 19. Separation of powers is a principle which enables each arm of government to A. Probe one another, B. Overlap the functions of the other, C. Carry out its constitutional functions, and D. Moderate the scope of the Constitution. So the answer to this question is option C, to carry out its constitutional functions. The functions of each arm of government, the legislature, the executive, and judiciary, is stipulated, it is outlined within the Constitution. So the reason for it being outlined in the Constitution is to ensure that each of them carry out their function independently, separate from the other, in order to prevent abuse of power. So in this case, separation of power is a principle that enables each arm of government to carry out its constitutional functions without overlapping the functions of other arms of government. So the answer to this question is option C. Do you have a question? Please feel free to ask your question by going down to the link in the description below. This takes you to the Myschool website where you can ask your question and the solution will be provided to you within a short period of time. Now on to question 20. The main attributes of a state are A. Population, territory, government, and sovereignty. B. The press, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. C. Federal, state, and local governments. D. Government, the police, and the armed forces. So the answer to this question is option A. Population, territory, government, and sovereignty. These are essential attributes of a state. A state must have a group of people occupying a defined geographical territory with an organized legitimate government. And these states must actually be sovereign. That means it can perform its duties of governing the people without external interference. So these are the main attributes of a state. The press, the legislature, the executive, and judiciary are not necessarily attributes of a state. You can have a state without the press, especially in a dictatorial government. You can have a state without these arms of government, especially in an absolute monarchy. You may have a state that doesn't practice the federal system of government, so there may not be federal, state, and local governments in that particular state. Then you can have a state without the police and the armed forces. Of course, government is important in the state. So the answer to this question is option A. Do you have a better explanation or solution to any of these questions? If you do, please go down to the comment section below, indicate the question number and the solution you would like to share. Question 21. The General Purpose Committee of the local government functions as A. Committee for awarding contracts, B. Cabinet of the local government, C. Body responsible for supervising self-help projects, and D. Committee of the government on public relations. So the answer to this question is option B. Cabinet of the local government. So the General Purpose Committee serves as a cabinet. You know, a cabinet is composed of ministers of a particular state. So in Nigeria, for example, the cabinet is composed of all of the various ministers within the country. So it is the same thing for a local government. So there are ministers for the local governments. So it consists of heads of departments and other senior officials within the local government. So these heads of departments are heads of departments of health, of sanitation, of education, and various other departments within the local government. So they come together to make policies that will favor the citizens that are living in that particular local government. The answer to this question is option B, Cabinet of the local government. Question 22. Nigeria observed the principle of collective responsibility between A. 1993 and 1999, B. 1985 and 1993, C. 1979 and 1983, and D. 1960 and 1966. So the answer to this question is option D, 1960 and 1966. So between 1960 and 1966, Nigeria practiced the parliamentary system of government. And in the parliamentary system of government, there is collective responsibility. The parliamentary system of government is a system where the power of the leader is divided between the head of state and head of government. So in that case, between 1960 and 1963, Nnamdi Azikiwe acted as our Governor General on behalf of Queen Elizabeth II. And then Alhaji Tafawa Balewa acted as the Prime Minister within the country at that time. Then in 1963, we had the First Republic. So Nigeria now developed a republic within the country. Nnamdi Azikiwe became the first ceremonial president, and Alhaji Tafawa Balewa was the Prime Minister of the country. So in that situation, there was collective responsibility. Collective responsibility is a situation whereby a certain group of cabinet ministers, they come together to take responsibility for the policy making within the country, the policy making and implementation within the country. So Tafawa Balewa was the prime minister of a particular cabinet. So this consisted of a group of ministers who came together to make policies for the country. So there was collective responsibility between 1960 and 1966. However, between 1979 and 1983, during the Second Republic, we had a presidential system of government where there was individual responsibility. We had one person who was both head of state and head of government, that was Alhaji Shehu Shagari. So it was the president, and we're practicing the presidential system of government. This is the system of government that we continue to practice to this day. So if you want to know more about collective responsibility and individual responsibility, you can watch our video on the workings of government, part 1, where we discuss the difference between the presidential and the parliamentary system of government. You see a lot of information on that. To know more, you can go down to the link in the description below, where you can subscribe for our government topic by topic video lesson. So for this, the answer to this question is 1960 and 1966. Option D is the answer. Question 23. The political party with the widest spread membership in Nigeria during the Second Republic was the A, GNPP, B, NPP, C, NPN, and D, UPN. So the answer to this question is option C, NPN, or the National Party of Nigeria. This was the most popular party during the Second Republic. It was the party under which Alhaji Shehu Shagari won the election during the Second Republic. And so they won 25% of the majority votes. At that time, that was the majority because there were a lot of political parties. Nigeria was actually practicing a multi-party system at that time. So they won the election in 1979. And the reason they won the election is because they had a widespread membership across different ethnic groups within the country. They also won the 1983 general election as well, which was cancelled when Major General Muhammadu Buhari took over power in 1983. So the answer to this question is option C, NPN. Question 24. Military intervention in Nigeria arose from A, perceived incapacity of civilians to govern, B, military corporatism and egocentrism, C, international pressures for change, and D, civilian desire to give up power. So the answer to this question is option A, perceived incapacity of civilians to govern. So the military leaders who took over power in 1966 believed that the civilians were not able to govern the country appropriately. There was a lot of corruption during that era and a lot of ethnic tension between the various ethnic groups within the country. And so they felt like the civilians were not able to govern the country adequately, and so they took over power. The answer to this question is option A, perceived incapacity of civilians to govern. Question 25. Federalism was introduced in Nigeria under the A, Richard's Constitution, B, Littleton Constitution, C, Macpherson Constitution, and D, Independence Constitution. The answer to this question is option B, Littleton Constitution. Under the Littleton Constitution of 1954, Nigeria converted from a unitary system of government to a federal system of government. Under this federal system of government, the regional governments were given administrative power. They were allowed to make policies that favored the regions. So this was different from when it was under the unitary system of government, where each of the governors of the region had to receive policy direction from the central authority, from the Governor General of Nigeria. This actually changed under the Littleton Constitution of 1954. Each regions were allowed to make policies for themselves. Also, the parliaments were created for these various regions. The central government had the federal parliament, and each of these regions had their own parliaments. So the answer to this question is option B, Littleton Constitution. I believe you're enjoying this content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly, tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos.